Go.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Liz Hannon, and I am one of the counselors at the high school. I will be your moderator for tonight's Ask the Experts program, where our panel of 6 college admission professionals will share application advice and answer general admission questions. Our panelists this evening are Erica Davis from College of Lake County, Orlando Ramirez from DePauw University, Heather Chase from Miami University, Carol Lynn Murphy from University of Chicago, Scott Carlson from University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and finally, Julie Nelson at Xavier University. I'd like to start by having our panelists introduce themselves and briefly highlight their schools. Let's go ahead and start with Erica Davis.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you all for joining us, and thank you for having me. So as Liz said, my name is Erica Davis. I work at the College of Lake County as a college and career navigator. What that means is I am that first stop as you are submitting your applications and getting the admissions process started. So as you are finding yourself interested in CLC, I'm the face that you'll see. I've been working at CLC for about 3 weeks now. I've learned a lot of things up until now, so I'm super excited to be able to share my knowledge with you all and help you understand your options at CLC.
Thank you, Erica. Go ahead, Orlando from DePauw. You may introduce yourself and some highlights about your school.
Awesome. Good evening, everybody. I'm really glad to be here. I'm Orlando Ramirez. I'm an assistant director of admission at DePauw in Indiana, and I have been with DePauw for about 8 years now. DePauw is a private residential liberal arts university with a School of Music down in Greencastle, Indiana, which is about 45 minutes west of Indianapolis. So about 3.5 hours, close to 4 hours if you're stuck in traffic from the Chicagoland area. So we're a school of about 2,000 students, and we have all sorts of majors, but everybody comes in undecided. Everybody has until the end of their sophomore year to declare a major. And I would say that the most popular majors are probably, of course, psychology, economics, communications, biochemistry, the School of Music, and also kinesiology has been going up there. Oh, and computer science. The university is a great university that really does broaden all of your exposure. So that's what a liberal arts education is. You're going to be taking courses in a lot of different areas. But one way in which we're different is we really want to hone in on those experiential opportunities that really develop those interpersonal skills, leadership skills, technical skills that you'll need in any career that you want. So in addition to the majors, we have 4 honors programs, one in business and management, another one in media, another one in the environmental studies area, and then your honors scholars program, which is kind of your liberal arts on steroids, like I like to call it. So that's pretty much all I'll say for now, and I'll leave it to the next panelist.
Thank you very much, Orlando. Now we'll cut to Heather Chase from Miami University.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Heather Chase. I am from Miami University in Oxford, Ohio. And Miami is a mid-sized public school. We have about 17,000 undergrads and only about 2,000 graduate students. So we are pretty uniquely focused on undergraduate education. Our students come from all over the country. Half of our students are from Ohio, but half are not. And that's pretty unique for a public institution. So we have popular majors in business. Our Farmer School of Business is very popular and well regarded. We also have a great pre-med program. We have an excellent study abroad program for all students in every major. And we're just overall, it's just a solid fit for a lot of students from the Chicagoland area. We certainly draw students from the North Shore very regularly. So probably have a connection to Miami somehow. I'm always amazed how many students from your area come and say, oh, this person went to Miami. So it's great to be here tonight. Look forward to talking with you guys and pass it on to the next person.
Thank you, Heather. Now let's hear from Carol Lynn Murphy from the University of Chicago.
Good evening, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here with you this evening. Of course, I wish that I could see your faces and be with you in person, but here we are. My name is Carol Lynn Murphy, and I just finished my 10th cycle in the office. Woo! And I am an alum of the college and of the law school at the University of Chicago. I always like to say they just can't get rid of me. I'm like a lifer. And if you haven't been to the University of Chicago, I just want to give you a quick overview. So we are located in the city of Chicago in the neighborhood of Hyde Park, which is just about 6 miles south of the downtown Loop area. It's really residential. It's park-like. We're very close to the Museum of Science and Industry. It's a great little day trip whenever travel becomes acceptable again. And we have about 6,800 undergraduate students. This is an institution with a real tradition in research, discovery, and innovation. Our students love to challenge fundamental assumptions. There's a core curriculum in which all of our students are introduced to those foundational skills of reading primary texts and interpreting data and really learning how to engage each other in academic discourse. But I'll stop there, and I hope to get a chance to hear from you some more in the future.
Thank you. And now we'll move on to Scott Carlson from the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign.
So, hi everyone, my name is Scott Carlson. I have been with U of I for about 4 years now. Previously, before that, I was with another Big Ten university, so definitely representing always the Big Ten schools. With U of I, we're located about 3.5 straight hours south of the Lake Forest area, so pretty easy drive to get through us. You just have to get through the traffic of Chicago always, but once you get past that, it's a pretty easy straight shot. We are the flagship state school. We're the largest school in the state of Illinois. We have roughly 34,000 undergraduate students. We just started our own medical school. So with our grad students total, we broke 50,000 for the very first time this past year. So we're very excited, have more opportunities available for our undergraduate students on our campus with that med school feature. But traditionally from Lake Forest students, I usually always get asked a lot about our Granger College of Engineering, which is top 10 in the country, or our Geese College of Business, which is top 20 in the country. But truly, no matter which way you go at U of I, we're a top 15 public institution. So every program of ours is going to be strong, and it's going to land you a great opportunity when you leave our institution. But I won't say too much, but I will say do some luck tomorrow. We play in our first round of March Madness. So please do your homework and watch us if you could. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. And Julie Nelson from Xavier University, we'd love to hear a little bit of introduction from you now.
Thanks so much, Liz. As Liz just said, I'm Julie Nelson from Xavier University. I'm the Regional Recruitment Director, which means that I am not coming to you live from Cincinnati, Ohio tonight. I am coming to you live from my living room. My dog just got a new toy today, so if you hear that going on in the background, I apologize. Xavier University is one of the 27 Jesuit Catholic schools in the country, so we're run by the same order of priests that run Marquette and all the Loyolas and Creighton and Georgetown and Boston College. So we have that tradition of certainly a liberal arts and sciences education, but that coupled with the Jesuit philosophy of being men and women for and with others. Unfortunately, we're not playing in March Madness this year, and that's weird because we usually do. And that's one of the coolest dichotomies, I think, at Xavier, is that we are a school of 5,000 undergraduates and about 2,000 graduate students. Yet we are Division I in athletics. So students get really a great mix of on-campus experiences in a very living, learning community, but they also get that opportunity to wave to mom and dad on TV and, you know, paint themselves blue and all of those great things. We are probably best known for our Williams College of Business. We have 9 majors there. We do have a direct entry nursing program. We do some dynamite preparation for pre-med studies. Certainly too, sports marketing, sports management, education, the gamut. But any student that comes in is going to have what we call a success team. So they will have an academic advisor, they'll have a career coach, they'll have a success coach, and a financial aid person to help them figure out that path, because even if they come in thinking they know what they want, they probably don't. And we were the first school in North America with a pizza ATM. So students can get hot pizza 24/7 on our campus. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Liz.
That's amazing. Thanks, Julie. Thank you all for these highlights and for telling us a little bit about your schools. But now let's go ahead and get started with some questions. So I'm going to just be fielding these in general. So whichever one of you, wants to reply, please feel free to chime in and add whatever information you think is pertinent for our audience to hear. So we'll start with our first question here. As you know, due to COVID, many students are not able to get on campus for formal visits right now. How do you suggest they best use their time and effort to determine if a school is the right fit, knowing that they are not having the same college visit opportunities?
I'll start. It seems weird that it's been a whole year since this unpleasantness started. But know that when a year ago, probably today, all of us in all of our representative schools, we're all scrambling, saying, how do we help these students get to know us when they can't leave their houses? And for some of you, you're feeling a little bit better about traveling. And for others, you're like, yeah, not yet. I want to be able to stay safe, and that's great. And so all of us have some sort of virtual component to our online programming. So whether that's a virtual tour, whether that's an opportunity to connect with faculty, whether that's student panels, we are trying our darndest to give you the vibe of the school. And I know that's what students tell me all the time. You can do your research, you can Google all the facts, but you have to get to know, is this a good fit for me from a personal standpoint? Am I going to find my friends? Am I going to have professors that take care to, get to know my name, all of those kinds of things. And so as you view these online opportunities, treat them with the same kind of care and respect and attention that you would if you were on campus. I know sometimes you've been staring at a screen all day and you're like, great, Julie, you want me to watch this virtual tour? But I think if you obviously are absorbing what's going on the tour, but you also kind of get the subtext of it, you'll see pretty quickly what's important to those schools, what they highlight, the things that keep coming up over and over in the presentation. And you should be able to then say, yeah, when I can get out and travel again, this is a place that I definitely want to see because there's something about it that attracts me. You may watch some virtual tours and say, nope, it's a beautiful campus, but it's not me. And I think having that kind of self-awareness is going to help you through this whole college search process.
I'll also just add really quickly, I think Julie's absolutely right to make the most of those virtual sessions and opportunities. I also just want to underscore how in some ways going virtual has really made it possible for us to offer more than we did than like a campus visit. Like I know probably many of us, we have model classes. We have sessions where you can speak with our career advancement office. You can meet students of various interest areas and who are involved in different majors, like across campus, in a way that you might not have been able to if you were just here for like a info session and tour. So I think there are some really nice, like a larger like variety of offerings available that you can do from the comfort of your own home. And also that I think that means that you can actually kind of visit more schools than you might have otherwise been able to, like driving takes a lot of time or flying takes a lot of time.
Can I add one last thing? Or sorry, not last thing, if other people are going to speak, sorry. I do want to say to Julie and Carolyn's point, a lot of us have gotten better at this. At this point, we've had a year where we've learned what students will like, what they might attend, how to make the events a lot more fun and engaging. And also gone through a lot of the technical issues that we experienced at the beginning of this pandemic. So I would say, please, if we're starting to spam your inbox, please check the emails because there could be really cool events that each one of us are planning. And I will say a lot of us collaborate a lot of the time. There are a lot of college fairs that are happening this spring where, for example, StriveScan is hosting a lot of college fairs where we have 6 colleges giving information sessions at a time. So keep an eye out for those. Of course, we're going to be promoting it. StriveScan is going to be promoting it. Yes, we are spamming your emails. The other thing, check our websites. I think at this point in the pandemic, a lot of us are starting to open up our doors. DePauw has been accepting visitors limited though since November. So we've been keeping that as part of our experience, and I'm sure that there are other colleges who are doing it as well. There was one other point, but I forgot it. So we'll pass it on.
I'll jump in really quick. I mean, I hate to be the bad guy, but I will say I get it. I'm zoomed out too. And I have 2 younger kids who, the minute that school day ends, like, get off your computer, you've had enough. So I think, if you do want to go visit, if you're comfortable venturing out in the world, there are schools hosting some level of something in person. Drive through a town, we've had so many people come down to Oxford, Ohio and just drive around in their car. And I mean, throughout last year, as seniors are making their decisions, they were literally driving in their car in a mask and going all the way there and all the way back in a day and, trying to see it just because they had to make a decision. But I think, do what works for you. And if it's visiting a campus and staying in the car, or if it's, our tours are all outdoors. We're not taking anyone into any buildings yet. So it's just walk around and see it. Sometimes you can get a vibe from that, but know that as much as we all are, flooding our websites with virtual programming, we're also doing all we can to try to get you back to our campuses. We're just, a lot of times we're bound by regulations that, the state of Ohio or state of whatever has declared, and we're kind of limited. Our hands are tied a little bit on how much we can do. But we're so eager for you guys to come see us in person again when it's safe. And I think we all probably would agree, like, we're counting the minutes until that happens, hopefully very soon.
Thanks. Thanks all of you. Go ahead, Scott.
I was just say really quickly, I know being on Zoom long hours a day can be pretty tough, but I know that we all like to binge our Netflix and stuff like that too at the same time if they're being on the computer all day, which is kind of funny like that. So to help out with the college tours, one of the U of I grads who works with Amazon created a college tour showcase. So it's a new Prime docuseries. So far they have 3 episodes up of 3 different colleges. So if you have an Amazon Prime account and you want to start touring some colleges, you can do it via Amazon. I know U of I were one of the next few episodes coming up here soon. So they're going to keep adding more and more episodes. So if you have an Amazon Prime account, check out College Tours.
Excellent. Thanks so much, everybody. All right, next question. What are some of the most or the biggest mistakes or errors that students make when completing their application?
I'll go first on this one. The biggest mistake I always see is the student rushing through the application. Like, take your time with it. All of our applications are not meant to be done all in one day. So please take your time with it, give it a few days, save it, come back to it, and then also have someone else look over it before you submit. We're all human. We're all prone to errors, but you don't want your college application have a simple error that can change it drastically. One of the errors I always loved to share was a student who in his essay for our university was talking about our business program and his love for both business and hunting and how he wanted to turn it into a company one day. He spoke in his essay about how him and his dad were hunting peasants and not pheasants. Made for a very awkward read. So now I think you're killing humans in your spare time. That's not a good look for admission. So take your time, have mom or dad look it over, maybe an English teacher, brother or sister, because they'll catch those simple errors throughout the application, through the essay, that maybe you accidentally put in wrong and you were just kind of glossing over it. Because once you hit that submit button, there's not a lot of things you can take back. And just the other thing too is following instructions. That's a huge thing. We have certain things that we look for in our applications. If we're only asking for our essay, that's it. We're not going to take another essay to send to us like a personal statement. If we don't take letters of rec, we're not going to be able to take them from you. And I know they're not on here, but I was on one just a day or two ago with University of Notre Dame, and she always shares this. They asked for 2 letters of rec with an optional third. One student decided to send in 84 letters of recommendation. So red flag much? It's like, what are you hiding? So like, if you want to go above and beyond, that's fine, but check with us admission counselors first. We'll let you know if it's a good idea or a bad idea. But if it's required, do it. If it's recommended, probably do it. And then if anything above that, ask us first, because you don't want to put yourself in a bad situation like that student did.
Along with that, this goes along with having somebody look it over. Please make sure that especially if you're using the Common Application, that you're not writing an essay and including another school in the essay. At least delete it before you submit it, because yeah, we see that and we're like, ooh. So they really want to go to the other school, huh? So I would check for that.
So proofing obviously is a common theme. Erica, were you going to chime in with something?
Yeah, like super quickly, the CLC application is quite simple. It takes about 10 minutes to complete. So that's actually one of the things, is that students might get worked up about like having to submit an application, but it's actually very simple and you can do it like on your phone really quickly. So don't worry about getting psyched out about submitting an application. It will be done super quickly. But one of the pieces in the application that some students may gloss over or forget to input is that social security number. And the only reason why I want to bring that up is because that is what is able to help us connect you with financial aid. And for students that do not have social security numbers, that is okay. There is an alternative FAFSA application that we do consider in determining your financial aid. But if you do have that social security number, please put it in, because we don't want to delay getting you the money that is yours and that you can really use to be able to pay for your classes.
And I think right along with Erica's point, if you go by a nickname, if your name is Mary Catherine, but you go by Katie, don't fill out your application with Katie. Fill it out with Mary Catherine, and there's always a spot for your preferred name. It causes a whole host of problems, financially not the least of them. But if your transcript says Mary Catherine, but your application says Katie, we might not think that's the same person. Things don't get connected. So stay consistent across everything you're doing for college.
I think along those same lines, this is not always popular, but do your application yourself. Especially last year, I think we were all remote learning and we were all, in it together, meaning we're maybe all working in the same household, and we'd receive a lot of calls from parents saying, I'm filling out the application and I'm having trouble, but the student's mom, not the student. We know this because sometimes by default, a mom would enter her own birth date or a mom would enter her own preferred name. So we'd all of a sudden be referring to the student by their mom's name. And the student would email and say, why are you calling me my mom's name? Well, it came from somewhere. So I think just students, you guys know how to do this stuff. And I know it's tempting. I'm a parent of very stubborn children who I would love to do things for, but yeah, you've got to do it yourself, because it'll come through a lot better.
Actually, Liz, I'm very sorry if I can just interject super quickly, because there is another piece, another like mistake that happens, and this happens a lot because a lot of students at Lake Forest and around the area may be doing dual credit or a part of Tech Campus, or maybe was a part of an event at CLC, and that triggers an application in our system. So if you've done those things, you do not need to complete another application. So don't, because then there'll be too many applications out there and too many files open, and it may be hard for us to connect that information. And we want to make sure to keep it as streamlined as possible, so that we don't get confused with who we're talking to. So sorry about that, but just wanted to add that in there.
Excellent. Thanks so much, everybody. All right, next question. What are your most competitive programs for direct admission? And what happens if a student applies to one of those competitive programs but doesn't get admitted into that program? Is the student denied from the college, or will they be considered for other majors? And as a follow-up to that, if the student ends up going to your school, what is the process to then be able to transfer into that major that they wanted originally?
I can kick it off. Miami has two majors that are more competitive than the rest. Let's put it that way. The business school, the Farmer School of Business at Miami. So all of the business majors fall under that is number one. And then the nursing program is number two. With business, you can absolutely be admitted to Miami without being directly admitted to the business school. It is very selective this year. So yes, the student could ultimately be admitted to Miami and admitted to business, or admitted to Miami but not admitted to business. And if you're not admitted to business, we do have a guaranteed admission program for sophomore, meaning starting your sophomore year, you can start in the business school at Miami. You have a couple of prerequisite classes to complete freshman year, and you have to have a 3.5 GPA at the end of freshman year. But if you do those things, you're into the business school. It's a guaranteed pathway. So nursing is a little bit different. You can be directly admitted to nursing and admitted to Miami. If you're not directly admitted to nursing, we would go on to your second choice major on your Common App and see if we could admit you to that, which if it's not business, then you're into it, because those are the only two selective majors at Miami. Nursing is different though, in that you can't start nursing as a sophomore. We don't allow transfer students coming into nursing. So if you're a student who absolutely must be a nurse in life and you're not directly admitted as a freshman to Miami, you're probably going to look at another institution, for your own sake to pursue a nursing degree. But with business, there is that sophomore option. So I'm sure everyone has different answers, so I'll stop talking.
Does anybody else want to chime in on that one?
I would say our most competitive program is nursing as well. Like Heather, if you would apply to nursing at Xavier and not meet the requirements, we would admit you exploratory, which is our way of saying undecided, and put you on a nursing wait list. So as we see how the students are filing in, we may have some more ability to admit students. But just like at Miami, if you are not admitted to nursing as a freshman, that's pretty much it. There is no other path to nursing. We don't take transfers internally or externally into nursing.
For University of Illinois, if you basically, for us, you're a direct admit to all of our programs. When you're applying directly to the major that you want to study at U of I. So if you want journalism, you're applying to journalism directly. If you want psychology, you're applying to psychology directly. If you want computer science, you're applying to computer science directly within our Granger College of Engineering. The way to get looked at for more, because if you only list one major on our application, that's it. That's all you're going to get reviewed for. We're not going to review you for anything else. The way to benefit yourself is to make sure you have a second choice major listed in your application. If you're not sure what major you want to list after that, just do our undeclared division of general studies. It's the one major as a second choice where you do not have to write another essay for. So at the very least, just throw that down at least for Scott. So that way you don't have to come back to me later on asking why you didn't get in, because you only listed one major and that was it. So for us, there's zero disadvantage to your first choice major. You get reviewed all the way through for that first choice program first. If deemed not admissible, then we're going to look and see if that's second choice major. If none, then you're denied. If you do, we'll route you another full review. If still deemed not admissible, we then look at you for other avenues of admission possible to U of I. And as a last resort, we review you for our division of general studies, our version of undecided. If you come, let's say you wanted, the programs for us that have the space constraints are going to be like the Granger College of Engineering and our Geese College of Business. Most of our other programs have open capacity. So as long as you come in and you take the classes and you're getting good grades and you're doing well, you can move into that program. For Granger, you have to be in the pre-engineering program to move into the Granger College of Engineering. As long as you're meeting a 3.0 GPA cumulatively and a 3.0 specialty GPA, which is like engineering classes, then you have guaranteed admission after your first year or after your second year, depending on how long it takes to get through the required courses, into Granger. Now, that doesn't mean you have guaranteed admission to all majors. There are still space constraints for like computer science, mechanical engineering, computer engineering, aerospace engineering, bioengineering. Yep, 5. Those 5. So when it's all said and done, if it's one of those 5 majors you want and you weren't directly admitted into those and it's that major or bust, I would recommend then not going to U of I, just because there's no guarantees that you'll ever be able to work your way into that program. If you're okay with coming, if you get in, great. But if not, you're okay with another major, then definitely come, because we can help get you there as best we can. But I don't want to put you in a spot where if you can't get in, and then it's like, well, that's what I want to do, and now you wasted 2 years at U of I. The other recommendation for business, it's a year-long program where you'd be outside of it. You apply to get in. Usually they see around 350 to 400 freshmen at the end of that first year apply for admission, and they always admit 200. So right around 50%, a little above 50%, but it is really competitive still. And after that, they do not take sophomores, juniors, or seniors to move into the program. So that would be your last chance.
Can I offer on the flip side type of thing? As a liberal arts school, DePauw is, I mentioned earlier, everybody comes in undecided. So when you apply to DePauw, you're applying to the university, and so you don't have to worry about applying to a specific major. And on the other hand, just because you are being accepted and everybody's coming in undecided, it doesn't mean that you can't start taking courses in that department from the get-go. You can start taking courses in any department right from the beginning. So you are working towards your graduating requirements for that major in that very first semester, if you would like to do that.
Excellent. Thanks, everybody, for that information. That's really good to know. All right, we are going to talk a little bit about the essay as part of the application. So what types of essay make the best connection with you, and are there topics that should be avoided?
I'll jump in. So I think that for any school that has essays as part of the application, you should write to whatever prompts they're suggesting, make sure that you answer the question that's asked of you. Certainly for any institution that has essays on the supplement, you should know that those are really important to the final level of decision making. Like, otherwise we wouldn't ask those questions of you in addition to whatever's on the comment application. So if it's a school that you're really prioritizing, take the time to make sure you do a good job responding to those supplement essays. UChicago is kind of notorious for its extended essays. We ask kind of the uncommon essay question. So like in past years, the prompt has been find X. That's it. But we usually give you like several different ones to choose from. And I think that in places where, you know, the institutions invite creativity, we are trying to give you the space to be yourself, to share your voice with us. We certainly always want you to be authentic and genuine. That doesn't mean that you should write it to me like I'm your best friend, right? This is still, you know, kind of a, I'm not, you know, a personal friend of yours, so just make sure that it kind of strikes the right tone. But I mean, don't be afraid to have fun. I think that this is a place where you can really demonstrate some personality, your intellectual strengths, your interests. Like, I always like to say that I think the essays that I connect to is really when I feel like I get the chance to almost imagine as if I were having a conversation, or you were telling me a story as if we were sitting down over coffee, right? Like, I think that kind of essay feels very personal and authentic and really gives me some insight into the kind of individual that the student is. As far as things that are sort of off limits, I mean, you know, like, I encourage you again not to think of me as your like teenage best friend. And so in my experience, essays about bodily functions usually don't go that well. Also, essays, if you're talking really negatively about someone else, then really, I mean, think about tone. You know, is this the type of person that we want as a roommate, as, you know, a lab partner? That's a lot of what we have on our minds when we're reading your essays and trying to understand who you are, what motivates you, what gets you up out of bed every day in the morning. So I think that being really down, especially about like maybe a particular person or someone, can kind of strike the wrong tone. And just watch your language in your essays. I'm sure that my colleagues have advice to share as well.
I love everything you said, and I agree with it 100%. And we all love the University of Chicago essay questions. Who are we kidding? But I would pick up on one of your points, which is tell a story. Tell me a story about yourself and your life. And it can be about a random Tuesday. It does not have to be, you don't have to have accomplished something magnificent it can just be something that happened that was magnificent to you. It doesn't have to be published anywhere or anything significant. I think some of my favorite essays are just those like kind of Seinfeld moments, those mundane things that seem like everyday things, but you really learned something from that moment, or you really took something away long term. So there's plenty of stories out there. And I think you guys sometimes as high school students kind of downplay because you're looking for this big moment that you've had that you can write about, when really Tuesday afternoon and what you did is just fine. Just pull something from your regular life. It's much more interesting to us, I promise.
Heather, I love that. I really do love those essays. I may have used this example in the past before, but a student started the essay talking about a disappointment, major disappointment, heartbreaking. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is going to be a sob story. And at the last sentence of the first paragraph said, and that's when I found out, oh, I forgot the name now, left One Direction. And that completely changed my mood on the essay. It was wonderful. The rest of the essay was just amazing. I recently read another essay where the student was talking as if he might have been older, maybe 12 to 14, and he's at a wedding and just really nervous. And again, the very last part of the first paragraph, he talked about how he grabbed the mic at his sister's wedding and started singing a song at the top of his lungs, and his dad's pulling him off the stage. And I was not expecting that. And it was just incredible to read the rest of the essay to see, about the student's personality. So yeah, to Heather's point, don't underestimate the little things that can be pretty funny or impacting.
I always tell students, think about the application itself. Most of it is pretty quantitative. It's your grades. It's, if a school requires a test, it's a test score. Even the list of your activities, even letters of recommendation. I mean, those are facts to someone, that can be proven. The essay is the one place where you can be qualitative, and really, and everything that everybody said, tell that story and let your personality out. If you're funny, be funny. If you're not funny, don't try it. Like, it doesn't work. But I think the vulnerability, the genuineness, I was going to say, yeah, I think that's the word I want to use. That's what strikes me. And again, just like Carolyn said, I'm a reader. And so it's kind of like when you crack the spine on a new book and you get about 3 sentences and you're like, I can't wait to see where this is going. That's what I hope the essay does for me. It doesn't have to be like the great American novel, but it needs to hook me in. I need to have a sense that you are caring about what you're writing. So it needs to pass the so what test. If I'm 3 sentences in, I still don't have any idea how you feel about something, maybe that wasn't the right topic for you. But I think the more you care about what you're writing, the more I'm going to care about it too.
I would just say one of the best tips I've ever gotten is that you should make sure, if you're talking about a pretty, I would say, popular experience, like the ones we all see a lot are like the sports injuries, coming back from like a big moment, maybe talking about like grandparents passing away, something like, we see a lot of these types of essays. So if it's something similar, or church mission trip, stuff like that, don't cast a floodlight on that experience, cast a spotlight on that experience. So that way that experience is unique to you. So even if I read 100 of that similar type of application essay already, it's different and it's unique. And that way it pulls me in still, and it's something that's different into you. So keep it all about you, but yeah, try to make it, point out some big uniqueness factors that went along with that experience. So that way it's not the same 100th sports injury essay that I've read that day.
Excellent advice. Thank you guys very much. I'm sure that's going to be very helpful to our students who are listening. The next question I have is more specific to CLC. So if you would, Erica, please talk about how a student who starts at CLC transfers to complete their bachelor's degree elsewhere. When should they start working with a counselor at CLC to be sure that their credits are going to transfer to that next school that they attend?
Yes, awesome. Thanks, Liz. So as we know, CLC is a community college, so it is designed to be like to be like a starting point, so to speak, where you can get some of those gen eds out of the way. And also you can begin to explore what your interests might be before you enter like that high stake arena, so to speak. So at CLC, we actually have an amazing program. It's called the Guaranteed Transfer Admissions program, where you can start at CLC, but you can you'll start at CLC to pursue like an associate's kind of degree, and then you can take that degree and transfer to a college or university to get your bachelor's. And we do have a list of schools that we partner with that are part of that guarantee transfer. So for example, DePaul with an L in Chicago, separate from DePaul, who we have today, ISU, Illinois State University, NIU, my alma mater, UIC, and actually we do have a pathways program with University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign through the engineering pathway, an engineering pathway program. So you will work with someone at CLC at day one. And that person will be able to begin working with you on fleshing out like, what do you want to do? What are your interests? You don't need to come in knowing what four-year university you want to transfer to, but just having an idea of like what you may want to do will allow us to be able to make sure that at least those gen ed courses that you're taking are classes that are transferable to the university that you would like to go to. There are a lot of benefits to doing the guaranteed transfer admissions. One of them is saving a lot of money and reducing, the amount that you may need to take in loan and that you might take on as debt. Another benefit is that you know that the classes that you're taking are going to go with you at whatever four-year institution you go to. And even if you do want to transfer to a school that is not a part of our guaranteed transfer admissions, you can still transfer your credits to various institutions. And there's actually a website that even today you can go on to create your account, transferology.com, where you can look through that course catalog at CLC, start typing in some of those classes, select the colleges that you would like to transfer those classes to, and it'll be able to tell you right there, like, this credit is accepted at this university. But you don't have to worry about, of course, going through it alone. You'll be working with us throughout the entire process. And then also with the Guaranteed Transfer Admissions program, you'll also be paired with an admissions rep, with an advisor from the institution that you would like to transfer to as well. So you get two adults working with you tirelessly to make sure that you're staying on track and that you're getting the classes that you need. There are like some requirements, like GPA requirements and courses that you may need to take. But again, you don't have to worry about going through it alone or having to do any guessing work. Every semester we'll be there to make sure that every class is following the pathway that you want to go down.
Excellent. That's really good information. And just to follow up, Erica, does it matter when a student transfers? Is it best to do it after 1 year or after 2 years of being at CLC or one semester? Is there any recommended time frame for that?
Great question. So, of course, the first answer is, whatever floats your boat, but recommended is that you do the 2 full years. And the reason why is that it really is a money saver. Your first 2 years, regardless if you're going to community college or 4-year, is often going to be spent doing those gen eds. And so why not just get them out of the way where you're at CLC, so that when you get to that 4-year, you can start going into those like major courses that are, will be very exciting. And you don't have to worry about taking classes that like you don't want to take, and you can go and enjoy that 4-year experience.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Great information. Another switch-in topic here. This one is dealing with financial aid. The question is, we don't think we will qualify for financial aid. Should we still complete the financial aid form? And will I be considered for any scholarships without completing the financial aid form?
Okay, I will start real quick with the PAW. If you're applying to a school that offers merit scholarships, those merit scholarships are based on your grades, maybe test scores if they require them. And so if you're admitted, you most likely will get a merit scholarship. So those are going to be based on that and not on any information or by submitting a FAFSA or CSS profile. That said, I always do recommend that families submit the FAFSA or the CSS profile, because if there are questions or conversations after the fact where they might be looking for additional aid, if we have that information already on file, it's easier for us to actually progress in the process to find additional aid if possible. So that really does help.
I would just piggyback that too, to saying, I think if this past year taught us anything, it's life is unpredictable, and having that FAFSA on file with job loss, with anything going on due to the pandemic, with your company closing, whatever, having that on file helps us out so much with being able to submit a special circumstance form to update on your most recent financial income level and stuff like that. But if we don't have anything on file, it makes it really difficult then to update anything to any sort of financial changes that happen with your family. So most of it's pretty easy now. I used to be more difficult, but a lot of it gets auto-populated now with a lot of your IRS information, which makes it really easy. It used to be like 120 questions long of doing everything yourself. So made it a lot easier now. So I really recommend just always just doing it. It doesn't hurt. It's just a little bit more time, but in case anything happens, it's on file and you know you can update it very easily then with your most recent information in case a job loss happens.
If I may, I totally agree with Scott. I think it's always helpful to file a financial aid application, especially if you're on the bubble and you're unsure. I think it's just the best route to go. I do just want to make a quick comment that also institutions can vary in terms of how they award aid. So just because you don't qualify for aid for one institution doesn't necessarily mean you wouldn't qualify for need-based aid at another. I think especially with private institutions, they can have a different calculus than maybe some public institutions. So just be aware of that. And that's another reason why you might hear some institutions really encourage you to go ahead and file to see if you qualify for any need-based aid first. Because in general, we're always going to want to work from the need-based aid first before we sort of move into a merit scholarship consideration. And then the second thing that I just wanted to add was with merit scholarships, just be aware that these also can really vary. So a merit scholarship is not always like a full tuition award or a full, cost of attendance award. Sometimes they could be really small. They might be a single year award. They also, some might require an application, or they might have a minimum, test score that you have to cross the threshold for to qualify for. And then some, like at the University of Chicago, we consider all of our admitted students for merit scholarships, and you don't have to submit anything. So these can really vary by institution, by program, by college, by school that you're applying to.
And I can add, first of all, echoing everyone, submit a financial aid application if you can. Like we said, it doesn't hurt to do that. And then also, let's say, with things that happen randomly, next year things might be different, the income might change, and you already have done like the FAFSA or the CSS. So then it's a lot easier for you to be able to pick up that application and pull that data and go from there. So definitely spend some time to fill that out. And also you just never really know what that income cutoff is. I mean, I feel like it changes almost every few years. And I don't even know what it is this year. So just definitely fill it out, because you never know. And another one of the pieces at CLC that is built into our financial aid process is talking about scholarships. So there are definitely organizational scholarships outside of the college. And also we often are racking our brains. We have a scholarship foundation office that is also constantly revamping and innovating different ways in which we can make sure that we are getting money to students that need it. So definitely just check out the website. You can do that probably for any college here. Go onto the website, and there are a lot of things that encompass financial aid outside of the FAFSA. So learn some more about that and you know, put yourself out there, because you never know what money might come your way.
Thank you all. Again, very helpful tips and very much appreciated. All right, this next question has to deal with standardized test scores. So many schools were test optional for this current application year due to the impact of COVID on students being able to not get out and take standardized tests like they had in previous years. Will your school be test optional next year? And if a school is test optional in the admission process, explain when a student should still submit their test score.
God, it's like playing chicken. Like, who's going to hit that button first, or Jeopardy or something? So I'm going to answer this as a school that is test optional, was test optional before COVID hit, will continue to be test optional. Really, when we decided to make that move from requiring a standardized test to dropping the test requirement, it wasn't capricious. It wasn't just like one day we woke up and said, don't send it. We had done our research. We had looked back at years and years of incoming classes to really dig into the data that we had based on the rigor of their academics in high school, based on the course progression, based on a lot of things to see if, you know, there was one data point, i.e. the test, that would have predicted their success at Xavier or not. And we really looked back and said, you know what, the test doesn't tell us a whole lot more than what we would have already gleaned from that transcript, from what that student had done, from how that student prepared themselves to be successful. That said, you know, perhaps there's a semester or two in that transcript where a student says, you know what, the bottom kind of fell out for whatever reason. You know, I over challenged myself. Life happened. I had to do all my classes, you know, on Zoom, and I don't learn well that way. Those kinds of things where a student can say, here's the person I am in the classroom most of the time, but the test backs that up and says that you have learned what you should learn. Because that's really what those standardized tests are trying to do, is to say, have you learned the things you should have learned in high school? And that's why the time that they are given is, you know, end of junior year, to say, have you taken the things that will prepare you for success in college? So if you're ever questioning, like, oh, well, it says optional, does it really mean optional? Absolutely, it really means optional. There's no trick to it. That was, I think, the biggest question, I'm going to speak for all of us, but that we all got in this last cycle, you know, where parents were like, but shouldn't we have gone to North Dakota to get that one seat to take the ACT? No, you shouldn't have. You should be taking care of you, and we can tell everything we need to know from your student's transcript. If you ever have a question, well, do you think I should send this test? Again, I think Scott made this point at the beginning. Call us. You know, we as the admission representatives that work with you, you know, students and families through this process, we're here to be your allies and your advocates. You know, we're not here to give you bad advice so that we can deny you tomorrow. Like, what a horrible soul-sucking job that would be, as if, like, I'm looking forward to denying people. Oh gosh, no, that's not why I do this. So again, if you have a question, should I send it or not, reach out to us and we will steer you straight.
We're on I'm on the other end of Julie's point, where we were never test optional. And then all of a sudden COVID-19 came along and we're like, oh, we're going to have to ramp up this by about 10 years. I think it really pushed everybody about 10 years ahead to being now test optional. And so a really great website to use, I know Julie mentions this one a lot, is fairtest.org. It shows basically a lot of the colleges who are test optional, what are they test optional for? Do you still need it maybe for merit-based scholarships? Do you maybe usually the 3 programs that are kind of at fault are like nursing, engineering, and business sometimes. Some colleges out there may need a test score for that. For U of I, we went entirely test optional this past year. Currently, we're voting on it. So it just went through the Academic Senate and now it's on its way to the Board of Trustees. So we're getting there. So we'll be finding out hopefully by June if we're going to be test optional again. So definitely if that's something you're curious about, U of I, just stay in touch with me. I'd be more than happy to let you know what we're going to be for this upcoming fall, for this fall cycle. But yeah, we're on the other end of that push there.
Scott, we're in the same boat at Miami. We're in the voting process. We were test optional last year. We were also not expecting that. And then, hey, COVID. So there we were. And, it's been good for us, to be honest. I think parents and students have this misconception that we love standardized tests in admission. Maybe some do, but we don't. I think a lot of us know that transcript and those, 4 years of high school are a bit more indicative of your ability to be successful in college than the test score. So we're thrilled to not have that as a part of it. And it does, it begs the holistic review, which we all, kind of enjoy saying and doing. So yes, to Scott's point, when we talk about test optional, for many of us, that means test optional for admission, for scholarships, for programs, that often require it. And I think that's why you'll see a lot of us haven't finalized the decision yet for next year, because it's not just a yes or no in the admission process. It's a yes or no for scholarships, for nursing, for education, which requires certification, so many additional steps. For Miami, additionally, we often use the test score to place you into a math class. So then it's like, well, what are we going to do for that? So many steps down the road. So just a lot of things to consider. But yeah, we're in the same boat that we'll be announcing likely by June. And it's looking like we'll probably be test optional, but we'll see how that goes.
I just want to say really quickly, the University of Chicago was test optional 2 years prior to this year. So that was a very deliberate decision on our part, and we expect that we will continue to be test optional.
Thank you all. You talked quite a bit about the transcript as just a minute ago. And how important it is for, looking at the grades in your classes and the level of classes that you've taken. So this always brings up an interesting question. Is it better to take an honors or an AP class and risk potentially getting a lower grade? Or is it better to stay in an average level class where a student knows they can probably get the A?
I can go first on this one. So for us at U of I, we review holistically, which means we're looking at everything that's in your application equally for admission. So we're looking at your grades, we're looking at the courses you've taken. We're going to look at that rigor level because you go to a great high school. We want to make sure you're taking advantage of the APs as well as maybe some dual credit offerings through like CLC or through another college. We're also looking at like test scores as well as like extracurriculars and honors, awards, essays. So all that's getting used equally. But if I'm looking at you and I'm seeing you got straight A's in all regular courses, I'm going to wonder, why did you never take advantage of the AP offerings that Lake Forest has to offer or the dual credit partnering that they have? Because I want to see you challenge yourself a little bit. So it does look a little bit negatively because we do want to see you take advantage of some of that great rigor that's available at your school and challenge yourself a little bit. If you're getting a good mixture of A's and B's, that's a healthy amount of rigor for yourself. And when this debate always going to go too, don't worry about what your neighbor is taking. What do right for you. A comfortable amount of rigor is great. If that's 2 to 3 classes, perfect. Don't worry about Johnny who's doing 5 APs. Like, you do not need to do that for admission. As long as you're a good mixture of A's and B's while challenging yourself, that's perfect. As soon as you maybe start dipping to those B's, like straight B's and maybe some C's, drop down on that rigor, then get back to that healthy amount where you're challenging yourself, getting a mixture of A's and B's.
I totally agree with Scott. I also trust your college counseling staff and the staff that you have at school, and talk to your teachers. This is not an all or nothing type of thing. It's not like all of your classes are standard level or all of your classes have to be APs. You can, raise the rigor in, let's say, 1 or 2 areas and see how you do. How does that feel? And then make adjustments as you go along. I think that high school is definitely the time for you to try out, like sort of where is that sweet spot of being challenged, but still being able to master the material so that you are ready for college. I think that's the thing that we care a lot about, is that how, are you able to get through a class and eventually achieve a certain level of mastery over that material, because we're all thinking about what kind of student will you be when you get to our campuses, and how will you address some of those challenges. So don't feel like it has to be like all or nothing all of a sudden. You can try it out as you go and sort of figure out what the right level of rigor is. And you have great counselors at your school who are there to help you with those choices.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. This is probably going to be one of our final questions, just in the interest of time. Must a student take 2 years of world language in high school for admission purposes at your school? And if a student has not taken world language, are there other classes that you count instead to fulfill that requirement in your admission process?
I can start by saying at CLC, we do not have that requirement.
I'll go next. At Miami, we do require 2 years of foreign language in high school. I'll be honest, a lot of students take more than 2 years, applicants to Miami, but we do require 2 years. It doesn't have any bearing on what you need to take once you're at Miami. Once you're at Miami, the clock kind of starts over, and you do need 2 years of a language if you follow a major in our College of Arts and Sciences. So you certainly can take a placement test and place into a certain level, but what you're taking in high school isn't going to get you out of necessarily the college requirement. It'll probably just place you into, starting maybe a little bit at a higher level. But yeah, 2 years of language in high school. And the one exception, I guess, but I would consider it a foreign language, is if you have sign language, and I don't know if you guys do, I apologize, we'll take ASL as a foreign language, but otherwise it does need to be a foreign language.
We do like to see 2 years of a foreign language at least at Xavier, but we also recognize that students sometimes with IEPs and 504s have a reason for not taking language. And so we want to see that you've used your electives well. So if there's a particular area that really interests you, maybe you're really into art or in music and you followed that track, maybe you took some additional, communications courses or computer science courses. We want to see that it's not just, I didn't take a foreign language, so now I have 3 study halls. Again, it's all about preparing yourself to be successful. Once you get to Xavier, you do need to have foreign language, but again, we'll work with you and your situation and, find a way to fulfill that requirement another way if foreign language is not your thing.
At U of I, we're always have to be a little bit different. So we actually do not go by years in high school. We go by level. So oftentimes I see a lot of students who they may take like Spanish 1 in 8th grade, and then they take Spanish 2 as a freshman at high school, and then they may stop there. For us, that's perfect. You satisfied level 2. So you're meeting our level 2 requirement for admission. We don't need 2 years in high school. We just need you to get past that second level of a language other than English. And so for us, that satisfies our admission requirement. If you were to, let's say, only take level 1 and that's out of a language, or take no languages other than English, you could still be admissible. We admit tons of kids every year who don't meet that requirement, but it does put you at a deficit in the admission review process. And I always say you never want to be at a deficit in review, because you want to make sure you come in as level with everybody else as you possibly can. But definitely, yeah, you could still be admissible to U of I. And then once you get to us, depending on your program, you need either completion through the 3rd level to graduate with that degree, or through the 4th level of that level of language other than English in order to graduate that degree. So I always say try to get through just 4 years in high school, and then you don't have to worry about taking any at U of I, or even at a lot of college, you don't have to take any then, because you satisfied most the degree requirements there.
DePaul recommends 3 years. I will say since study abroad is very big at DePaul, cross-cultural awareness is part of our curriculum as well. And so we would like to see those amounts of years in the transcript. Plus, you also have to do 2 semesters while you're at DePaul in addition as well. So, yeah, it's highly recommended.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Last question of the evening. This one deals with, somebody had brought up just a minute ago, students that have 504 plans or IEPs in high school. Many of our students do, and they receive accommodations. Can you explain the process for receiving accommodations in college? And is it best to fill out the application disclosing that information or not disclosing that information until after a student is admitted?
I always recommend disclosing it just because when we review, like I mentioned, we review holistically. So we're taking everything into account, especially if it's giving us some more insight into with maybe why you maybe struggled a little bit early on. So a lot of these essays I read where we have like this optional essay to give us some additional context maybe we're not aware of. And this is usually where it comes in, where they were not diagnosed freshman year, so their grades were kind of so-so. They weren't very good, but then they got diagnosed that summer, and then you see the big improvement sophomore, junior, senior year. So that's when they can show, like, I had ADD, I had ADHD, I was undiagnosed, I wasn't on the right medication, and that's why my grades, I'm on the right medications, I'm doing so well. And so the more we know about you, the more we can kind of piece together everything and part of your application to make you more admissible then to our university. If we don't know anything about you, I'm just gonna be like, okay, well then this was just a really lazy applicant freshman year. I don't know what happened since then, but they just all of a sudden apparently now start like, oh, I need to get into college, I'm gonna start trying. So the more information you give us, the more easier it is for us to review, have more context to want to admit you then to our school. So I always recommend disclosing it. If you're maybe not sure, always talk with your counseling staff there at Lake Forest. They'll let you know if you should or should not. They can always contact me, but I do recommend it just because it gives us more information, and we don't obviously know you personally. So the more information we can have, the better it is to get a better scope of you.
I'll tell you my own example, and I'll only use this because he's not from Illinois, but my cousin is a freshman at Miami this year, and he is, I don't want to say a typical senior guy, but kind of a typical senior guy in high school last year who was diagnosed very late with a learning difference. He always did okay in high school, you know, so his parents never thought, I'm very close with his parents. They always thought, oh, he's just, you know, typical guy, not putting in enough work, whatever. Finally had him tested junior year, lo and behold, learning difference. You know, he started working with their, whatever you call it, like office at their school that kind of helped to give him some new techniques and study tactics and things. And all of a sudden, senior year, all A student, you know, doing amazing. And I was so embarrassed because he applied to Miami. Obviously, he ended up at Miami. And I read his application, which I did not read ahead of time because I couldn't. And when he applied, he didn't disclose it at all. And I talked to his mom and I was like, did I not teach you anything? Why wouldn't you disclose this? She's like, oh no, we were told not to disclose it. And I'm thinking, why not? You know, that's context. That's what we need. She said, no, it'll hurt him. It'll hurt him. I said, no, it doesn't. I promise you, it does not hurt at all. But I think there is that myth out there. And I think just from my relatives who obviously I don't talk to enough about college admission, they were under the impression that it was detrimental and that they didn't want to, you know, give a negative anything. And I said, absolutely not at all. I made him send an email later before he got his admission decision explaining further, because we need that. We need that context so much. When we review holistically, it can make such a difference. And, you know, there are services in college that can continue to help you if you feel that you need it. I think once you get to college, and he's experiencing this now, it's more about self-advocacy and about, you know, you kind of knowing yourself and knowing what you need and being able to go to a student disability services office and say, hey, I'm struggling with this. Can I use these services? Can I get some assistance? But yeah, don't believe the hype. I was so embarrassed when my cousin went through that because I thought, oh, I should have been talking to you more, but there's no negative, I promise. We wouldn't not hold it against a student at all. We'd be thrilled that they had found the resources they need to make it work.
Yep, and just to underscore what Scott and Heather said, I think that context is really helpful, but also it's a real opportunity for us to hear as well from you and your teachers about your own ability to advocate for yourself, which is definitely something that if you're going to come to college, you need to be able to do. well. And so I think lots of times when we have the evidence that you were a really effective self-advocate and you worked really well to like find, you know, the solutions or, you know, get the accommodations that you needed in a constructive way, like we're excited to have you on our campus. So, you know, I think that in many ways it's a great opportunity to showcase your strengths in the application.
Thanks so much, everyone. I think that is really helpful, and that's, you know, a common question that people are often wondering about. So I think that in particular for any of our students that currently have 504s, IEPs, I think that question in particular is really going to resonate with a lot of our families. So thank you. Looking at the time, I think we need to wrap up our program. I could continue to ask you questions. This is just such a helpful format for our students and families to be able to hear directly from you what you're looking for in the admission process. So I just want to thank all of you for your time. I know this is your evening. We really, really appreciate your taking time out of your day to answer all of these questions and to give such a wonderful, point of view to everything and to demystify this process. There's just so many questions that go, that go into this process for our students and their families. So again, thank you all for your time. The information you provided has been excellent. Thank you, and we will look forward to hosting this program again next year. Take care, everybody.